I'm Greg Coen. My family moved here in 1974 from Europe. My dad was a 30-year military man. My mom's family was from Wrigley, Tennessee. They were the Bentleys. My grandmother was Mildred and C.W. Bentley. Dad decided to get out of the military after 2 tours of duty in Vietnam and 1 tour in Korea. He felt that 30 years was enough, and he actually wanted to see his family grow up. Being a military family, you know, your father's away. So I was already 14, and my dad just wanted to see his family grow up. So we decided to move back to the hometown that my mom was from. And I went to school here, graduated from here, and raised a family here. Out of the candidates, I'm the only one that is out here every day working the road. I meet people every day. They tell me what their needs are. I hear their complaints. I'm out here with the guys doing reports. I go to domestics with them. I go to homicides with them, domestics. So I'm out here every day. I'm not in the office where I don't know what's going on. I keep contact with my guys. I hear the complaints. So I'm one of them. I know what the needs of the Sheriff's Department are, and the community. Community would tell you a lot of what they need. So I think that puts me apart. Your 1 year as an SRO with the school system enlightened me a great deal on the school, what their needs are. I got to know the kids. So it's really nice when you have somebody in a restaurant that comes up to you and taps you on the shoulder and say, "Mr. Coen, do you remember me from school?" "Yes, sir, I do." "Well, you influenced me a great deal." Family.
Family.
I was Officer of the Year in 2007. I have other achievements, but my family is the most important to me. I met a lady, I broke my arm playing in a men's basketball league. And I met this beautiful lady. Her name was Melissa Price. Her family were dairy farmers out of Lawrence County. I went and had one of my friends that worked there at the hospital introduce us, and we got married. We were married for 23 years, had 2 wonderful children, Allison Lampley, who lives in Dixon now, and Kyle Coen. That's probably my biggest achievements. We were married for 23 years. She got cancer and died of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, I believe is what it's called. That devastated our family. So met another lady a year later. She was going through some things with her family. We got together and we combined both of our families. We've been married 10 years. I got lucky twice. The Lord has blessed me twice. That's my biggest, probably family-wise, biggest accomplishment. When you have children and you hold that first child for the first time in your arms, if that doesn't change you, something is really wrong. Kyle, my son, was born with cerebral palsy. He's had 23 surgeries. The doctor told us from day one that this young man would never walk. He not only is walking, he's working 40 hours a week at a job. He's had 23 surgeries, like I said. He has completely beat the odds on everything that they said he couldn't do. That is my biggest accomplishment, that I have brought this family, or we have brought this family together and made one family out of it. I want to get with the commission. I like to build a good rapport with the commissioners, get their ideas, tell them my ideas. I really want to work strongly on stats. We have a report system, A, B, and a field interview. There are a lot of those field interviews that are not being done. A field interview might consist of you call me and say, "Hey, there's a suspicious vehicle in my community. I want you to check it out. I don't necessarily want to talk to you, but I wish you would drive by." If you have one deputy that doesn't do, let's say he gets 5 field interview reports in a week, and he doesn't do those 5, and you take those 5 and you go over years' time, look at the stats that is being lost. I can take those stats and go in front of the commission and say, this is how many calls I had this year. We've got to work on our stats. I want to see these deputies have a computer in every vehicle. That way the east officer doesn't have to leave the east zone. He can do his reports right there and even write a warrant out. He can print that out after he gets to the office. That saves time. That saves also money and gas expense of him driving back to Central and coming back. I want to build, I would like to have a quarterly meeting in one community or another where I have all three of my sergeants, a representative from the administration that will meet with the community, where those three sergeants and that administrator, which may be me, have to look at you as a taxpayer and explain why we're not doing what we're doing. I think that would be outstanding. When you get put on a hot seat, it kind of changes a few things. I would also like to see the DARE program start back up. I am big on our children. That 1 year as an SRO taught me a lot. I actually put some of the blame at one time on the educators. I found I was wrong. It starts at home. Those kids are influenced so much by the parents. You wouldn't believe how many times we go to these schools and these kids see us as the bad guys. That has got to stop. We're there to help them. We're not there to arrest them. We're not there to harass them. We are there to protect them. I like that they have passed the bill to put SROs in every school. If you go back, if you look on my sheriff's page, it's on there. I was the first one to bring up the idea about let's put an SRO in every school. Why not? The newspaper came down to interview me. It's on there. It says that, why do you think we need an SRO in every school? Well, it is for security, but it's also to educate these kids that we are not the bad guys. Kids will give you information. There was a young lady gave me some information one time when I was SRO that we found stolen guns. We found a stolen Gator side by side. So they will give you information. That's one of the things. I'd like to see a substation started back up in the East community where we can go and do our reports there instead of going back. And if we have the laptops, we may not have to have a substation. So there's several things I'd like to see done better. But one thing is communicate more with the community. Community is the ones that gives us the tips. And I've had so many complaints out here campaigning that we tell you stuff and you never act on it. So we have got to start listening to our community if we want to succeed in this business. Their job history. They need to do research on every candidate, see where they stand. Are they putting out their views out there publicly? Are they going to stand by what they say? It's easy for me to sit here and sell you a used vehicle, but am I true with it? So look at their past history. You can go up there and look at their personnel records and find out if they've had write-ups, what they've done, how many reports have they done, have they been proactive in the community? I would do a lot of research on every candidate, see where he stands on things. Go around and ask people in that community, what has he done for you? What has he not done for you? Just don't go on social media, some of the nasty comments that's out there. Go out there and ask people that you trust. Go to churches and find out, what is this guy? Has he come to your church and talked to you? That's a good way. Research is a big thing. I suggest that you get on every one of these guys' web pages and find out where they stand, see what they've done. First of all, I want to start out with, I am real big on the fight against drugs. I lost a sister to opiates. We found her in an apartment, dead, laying face down in her own vomit. That's pretty, graphic, but I'm just telling you like it is. I've got a nephew that has been involved in this county that's got in a lot of trouble over drugs. I've been accused of getting him out of trouble because he shares the last name with me. The only reason why he has my last name is because his dad was not involved in anything that he did, so my sister decided to give him my last name. We don't talk. It's a shame. I really wish we did. He stole my mom's vehicle a couple weeks ago. It's all because of drugs. Genetics, social lifestyle, depression, peer pressure, media. You know, a lot of the music coming out now glorifies drug use. These kids are under a lot of peer pressure. Their friends at school, you know, come on, you know, you tried it, it's real good. Well, I've done it, it won't bother you. Peer pressure, a lot of that. That's why I said earlier in the interview, I want to get back to the DARE program. We have got to start getting these children. The children of Hickman County is the greatest resource that we have. Why are we not educating these kids on drugs? You know, you have an SRO that has a big influence on these children. They look up to these guys. This is a good opportunity for these guys to get into these elementary level and all through the school system and teach DARE. If it's not a DARE program, there's still other things that we can use to get in here and talk about drugs. There's so much on the internet that we could bring out there, and we can have PowerPoints with these children. Just get in there and react with these children is enough, and say no against drugs. We have to. If we don't, we're going to lose these kids to drugs. I want to get real aggressive on drugs. We got to bump up our drug program. If we get out here and be proactive in these areas, I believe we can put a dent in. We're never going to stop drugs, but we can put a dent in it. I would like to put in the office a map of Hickman County. Put a needle up there, a red dot that indicates that's a hot zone. You can take your drug unit and you can start going there. Once you move them out of that zone, they're going to move. You move there. So you keep up with your stats. That's where I go back to stats. Those stats are going to show you where the drug activity is in that community. You go back to earlier, what can people do? And I said communication. They can communicate with us and tell us, hey, this house right here has cars pulling in every 5 minutes. That's a good indicator that something is going on at that house, especially if they're only staying there 5 minutes. So that's another indicator. So we can use all that communication, getting in there talking to our children, educating them on drugs. Also getting our police officers involved in community activities such as sports, being coaches in our junior pro programs. There's a lot of ways that we can do that. Once again, I'm going to go back to communication. A long time ago, we were on a system called the analog system. Everybody in this county had access to a scanner. You could hear these deputies say, I can't find this road, or I just lost this vehicle. They would call in and say, this vehicle just drove by my house, or this is how you get to this residence. Well, we switched over to digital, so they no longer can do that, but they can still call in to our dispatch and give us information, say, hey, this car is going inside this house and they're staying 5 minutes. I had a lady last week to call me, and she didn't know that I was no longer employed, telling me that there's a lot of drug activity. Communication is the key to everything for us. We get probably most of our tips from the public. Got to get these deputies to start listening to them and say, oh, okay, you know, and then never do anything about it. I think once we go back to stats again, that deputy should be required if somebody calls in and says, hey, there's drug activity going on at this house. That deputy can take that information down. He can give it to his supervisor, and that supervisor can pass it along to other shifts. Then the supervisor can pass it down to his deputies. Hey, there's drug activity going on in this neighborhood. He can go look at that board that I'm talking about and that shows that there's a high area of drug activity going on. That's how that we can be helped. And you know, not only that, but these guys love it when the public comes up to them and pats them on the back and says, hey, appreciate what you do. That means a lot. And I told you the story earlier of people coming up to us and saying, you saved my life. I arrested a guy one night that was drinking moonshine and was on crack cocaine, and he was passing cars in curves and everything. To this day, he's preaching. And he would he'll tell me every time he sees me, you saved my life. And I preach. Now, this is a guy arrested.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not saying that towards me. This happens to all of our deputies. That's one of the biggest compliments that you can give to us and helping us. And that really boosts us up. When Mr. Baker was killed a month or two ago, law enforcement came together more than I've ever seen. The community was so much behind us. I would just like to see that continue. And unfortunately, in law enforcement, we are one of the few organizations, businesses, that one police officer can make the whole profession look bad. I hate that, but that's reality. So just keep, backing us, praising us, and it goes a long way. That is not unnoticed, I just tell you. You know, word of mouth is one thing. I don't just simply buy that. I would like to, and not only with the reserve program, but future deputies that are hired, I'd like to do an in-home study. That means I don't tell you, you come to me and you say, you come to the office and you apply for a job, and all of a sudden we have an opening. You get a knock at the door. It may be at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, it may be at 7:30 at night. And I tell you, you've applied, you've shown an interest to have employment with the Hickman County Sheriff's Department. Do you mind if I come in and talk to you? You can go into somebody's house and find out how they live. You know, if I go in there and it's not the way I think it should be, maybe that's an indicator that maybe he's not going to live up to our standards. What is he involved in the community? Are you involved in sport activities? Are you active in the church? Or what do you do? I think that's a good indicator. Once again, word of mouth. You can go out and talk to people and say, well, how is this gentleman? Is he a good guy? Does he have good work ethics? You know, what is his background? Where does he come from? How does he handle situations in his work area? You know, there's a lot of things you can do. The interview tells a lot too. I don't like the one process interview. I think that maybe we should interview him 3 times. You know, bring him in here. Let's talk to him. You can look in somebody's eyes and tell a lot about them. That's what I want to do. I think research. Just ask a lot of questions. Let's get him in here and talk to some of his people that's worked with him in the past. I just want the people of Hickman County to know that if they elect me as sheriff, you're going to get an energetic sheriff. You're going to get one that's got compassion for this county. I love Hickman County. Just like several of the other deputies that work here, we've been offered jobs in other county making more money, but we chose to stay here with the low pay that we've had for years. There are deputies here that have had to pay their house off with what they made. There are deputies here that work 2 and 3 jobs. If I expect my deputy is making $28,000, $29,000 a year, and he's got to make a living and he's got to support his family off that, he's got to pay his house off, that should be expected out of me as the leader of Hickman County. I should be able to manage a budget. I will get out here alongside my deputies. I understand that my administrative duties are required out of me, but as people will tell you, I have to be out on the road. I've always been a road deputy. I'm going to work beside my guys. If I'm at a restaurant and I've got my radio on, which will be on me at all times, that's something that's going to change. And I hear that there's a physical domestic going on, there's only 2 deputies out, I'm going to leave that restaurant. And I'm sorry, whoever I'm with, I may be with another department head, we're talking about politics. I'm going to look at him and say, I'm sorry, but I've got a deputy that needs my assistance, I'm going to go. We can talk later. I'm going to require that every one of my deputies are going to have to live up to a standard. There's nasty rumors going around in this county that's being spread that I'm going to fire deputies in this county. I'm not firing anybody, but they're going to be held to a higher standard. They're going to have to perform. That's just the way it is. I'm going to have to be, because if that deputy doesn't perform, guess who is going to be held accountable for it? It's going to be the sheriff of Hickman County. I'm going to require that there are GPS systems in every car. including the sheriff. I want every deputy in that department to have access to that GPS system. It just blows my mind that a sergeant has to contact a lieutenant, a chief, or a sheriff to find out where that deputy is. What about if I would have got to that deputy 5 minutes earlier and I could have saved his life? Maybe he was bleeding out, or maybe he was in a firefight. That just blows my mind that everybody in that department doesn't have access to a GPS system. I don't understand that. I have the vision to move us forward. I get tired of hearing we can't in this county. Why not? We can. I want us to be a modern department. I don't buy this that we are a small department, we can. I don't expect to raise people's taxes to the point that they can't afford it. There's grants out there that we can get to buy things, to help us do our job better. I will be a leader. I promise you that I will be out there with my guys. If you call me and say, Sheriff Coen, I saw one of your deputies parked for 3 hours at a location, I want to know why, I will find you out that answer. I look at that GPS and he's been sitting there for 3 hours. He better have a reason. At one time when I was with a group of young guys on third shift, we made more arrests than first and second shift combined. Reason why? We were proactive. That doesn't mean we're out here pulling over good citizens that may be coming home late from a movie or been out to dinner. We were pulling people over with a good probable cause that were probably not out here with the best intentions. So we got to get back to getting in these communities, patrolling, pulling cars over, finding out, what are you doing here at 1 o'clock in the morning? Like I said, that's not harassing. That is with people with taillights out, suspicious activity. So I promise you, the citizens of Hickman County, I will be a proactive sheriff. I saw a proactive sheriff a month ago in Dixon County. I saw a man with compassion for what happened. I saw tears in that man's eyes, and he was deeply hurt at what happened. They've had some bad things happen in Dixon County, and it's awful what they went through, but I saw a true leader that day. That is what I want to be, and I will be. And I promise the voters of Hickman County that I will be there for you. Thank you.